Today on the Commanders Report, I've got my updated list of 8 surprise Commanders cut candidates after the events of mandatory minicamp in Ashburn, Virginia, just a few short days ago. Before we get into my cut candidates here, guys, make sure you click that thumbs up icon if you are pumped for training camp. I know I am, man. I am so excited for this season. I mean, there's never been this kind of juice surrounding a Washington Commander football team, especially, for a long time. There was some juice last year with Jaden Daniels coming in, and there was a lot of excitement. But we haven't seen expectations like this in Washington in a very long time, and I'm super excited to see if this team is able to bank in on those expectations here in 2025. So if you're with me on that, click that thumbs up icon. And just so we're clear, before we get into my list here, this is not a predictions video where I'm saying all 8 of these players are for sure going to get cut. That's not the purpose of this video. The purpose of this video is to let you guys know some players that might be on the bubble that were either former starters, they've made the team before, and it's a little surprising to some people when I say that they could be cut by this team this year. This is not a predictions video. This is these players could be cut if they don't have a good training camp video, just so you guys know. So we'll start here with Percy Butler. Last year played quite a bit for the Washington Commanders as their third safety. Of course, their every down guys were Quan Martin and Jeremy Chin. But when they went to their 3 safety packages, which was quite a bit, Butler was the third guy that came in. He played over 440 snaps, almost 450 snaps for this defense last season. That's quite a bit. But when he was on the field, let's just be honest, he was terrible. 98th out of 98 NFL safeties in Pro Football Focus grading last year. That 41.3 grade is like Emmanuel Forbes level territory right there in terms of how bad that grade is. So, he's certainly somebody that's still on the team. He's got experience as kind of a pseudo starter, a rotational player in this defense. But, Will Harris, to me, the safety that they brought in to quote unquote replace Jeremy Chin, is kind of a very similar type of body type and style of player to Butler in terms of the role that the team is going to be asking him to play. So I think that, we'll talk a little bit here in just a little bit about what the team expects from the bandit safety position, which is what Jeremy Chin played last year. But in terms of that other kind of deep safety to play alongside Quan Martin, I think that's going to be Will Harris. Percy Butler's role in the defense is certainly up in the air at this point. Then we get to Jeremy McNichols, the running back. And honestly, guys, I thought McNichols had a good season last year. He showed up in some big moments. There's some injuries in this running back room last year. And, on 55 carries, he had 261 yards. That's really good efficiency, and had 4 touchdowns for your backup kind of depth running back. He's a decent receiver out of the backfield, can be a decent, third down back. I have nothing against Jeremy McNichols, and I think he's actually a pretty decent pro. But you look at the running back room, and, you've got some youth in there. Brian Robinson Jr. is still pretty young. Chris Rodriguez Jr. is still in there. They just drafted Jacory Croskey-Merritt in the 7th round out of Arizona, who is absolutely turning heads, or was turning heads during the offseason program this year. You still got Austin Eckler, who's a shoe-in to make the roster. So it's going to be a question, how many running backs do they keep on the 53-man roster? Could be 3, could be 4, probably going to be 4. But, if there's going to be 4 guys, somebody between Chris Rodriguez Jr. and, of course, Jeremy McNichols is going to have to go, because I think that the guys that will for sure make the roster, Brian Robinson Jr., Austin Eckler, and Jacory Croskey-Merritt, there's only one more spot. So I could see Chris Rodriguez Jr. get cut. I really could. But I could also see Jeremy McNichols being that guy, that odd man out. So it's going to be an interesting competition in camp. It's going to be one of the ones that I keep my eye on here. The 2 questions of A, how many running backs do they keep on this roster in week 1? And then B, which one is going to be the 4th guy that they keep? We'll see. But let me know down there in the comments section of, which running back you would want to cut. Type JM for Jeremy McNichols, type CR for Chris Rodriguez Jr., or type B for both. My guess is, guys, is that whoever they end up cutting, they're going to want to bring back to put on the practice squad, so they won't be completely away from the team. But let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section for today's pinned question. If you had to cut one of these 2 running backs, which one are you going to cut? Then we get to Noah Igbanu, another player that played a lot of snaps for this team last year with the lack of good play that the Commanders got out of their cornerback room last year and injuries and all this different stuff. Igbanu played almost 1,000 snaps for this defense last year, was a starter for them come playoff time, all this different stuff. But like Percy Butler, even though he had a lot of snaps, it wasn't very good. A PFF grade in the 40s. There's only one cornerback that was eligible for a ranking here that was worse than Noah Igbanu. So it was definitely a point of emphasis here to add somebody that was better than Igbanu in this room this offseason. And, I think their plan was, let's move Mike Samerstroh back into the slot and let's get some help on the outside. They did that by getting Jonathan Jones and then, of course, Trey Amos in the second round of the NFL draft this year. Marshawn Lattimore will be back this year, fully healthy, which is very good. But Igbanu could make the team as a backup that has experience on this roster, but it's certainly a possibility as well that he ends up getting the axe if he doesn't have a good training camp. Michael Gallup is somebody that, hasn't really been in the league over the last couple of years. He's a big body, former true X-wide receiver that can, come down with contested catches when he was playing with Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys. But, now he's older than what he was back in those days, and, he's already dealing with injuries again. Missed some practices during mandatory minicamp with an injury. So I think there's a chance that even though he's a bigger name, that he could be a cut candidate for the Washington Commanders this year. And then somebody that, just frankly, I don't think is very good, KJ Osborne. He got some production with the Minnesota Vikings when he was playing with Justin Jefferson in Kevin O'Connell's beautifully designed scheme there in Minnesota. But Justin Jefferson gets triple teamed, okay? And then when you have a really good play caller like Kevin O'Connell that knows that, you can really scheme things open for your number 3 wide receiver. That's why every single number 3 receiver that has ever played with Kevin O'Connell in Minnesota has been super, super productive. And ever since Osborne has left the Vikings, he hasn't done jack squat, all right? So I don't think he's a good route runner. He doesn't bring a lot of great size to the table. He's not really a run blocker type either. I think that there's better receivers on this team, frankly, and I'm not going to completely count out the idea of this team adding another receiver, especially with Noah Brown going down with an injury at mandatory minicamp as well. So make sure you guys click that thumbs up icon if you haven't already. If you are enjoying the show, it really does help us out with the YouTube algorithm, guys. It takes a half second of your time to click that thumbs up icon, but the more people that like this video, the more YouTube's going to throw this video in front of other Commanders fans like yourselves, and it helps us increase our reach. So if you want to help us out today, click that thumbs up icon. We greatly appreciate you. We'll talk about Trent Scott here, an offensive lineman. I actually thought Scott played pretty well when he had to come in and play for Sam Cosmi last year in the playoffs at guard. He's been absolutely atrocious as a tackle, and I'm actually open to seeing how he does in training camp here to see if what kind of value he can bring as a guard. But he's certainly somebody here that I don't expect to be a starter or anything like that. And there's certainly some new faces in the interior offensive line group this year. Guys like Nate Herbig, Brandon Coleman is transitioning from tackle to guard as well. So Scott's role in this offensive line is certainly up in the air. Then Michael Dieter, somebody that was just playing terrible last year when he played. Let's just call it for what it is. I thought Trent Scott actually played a lot better than Dieter when they were both called on to play last year. So I actually think Dieter is more in danger of being cut this year, especially with Nate Herbig's versatility as a center. So you got Tyler Biadasz as your starting center, obviously, and you obviously need somebody in your interior offensive line group that can also play center. Nate Herbig, I think, is a better player than Dieter is, and I think at the end of the day, he gets that backup job, which leaves Dieter out in the cold, and that's where I kind of feel about this interior offensive line as it stands right now. Then the final surprise cut candidate on today's video, Javonte Jean-Baptiste, last year's 7th-round pick out of Notre Dame. Got some opportunity last year with some injuries at the edge rusher position. Honestly, didn't play all that well, but he was a rookie. And now they've added a bunch of names to that edge rusher group. They got guys like Jacob Martin. They got Dietrich Wise this offseason. They still have Cleveland Ferrell. They still have Dorrance Armstrong. You're starting to run out of spaces here for Javonte Jean-Baptiste to make the final roster. So I don't want anybody to be surprised if JJB ends up being cut this year. So let me know down there in the comment section, who is a Commanders player who will surprisingly not be on the final 53-man roster this year? Give me your answer down there in the comment section, and that'll be it for today's edition of the Commanders Report by Chat Sports. Make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already, and until next time, guys, go raise some hail.